All right, hello to everybody who's just joining us. We got some people here early, which is great, but we'll be started in just a minute. We'll let other folks join in and kick it off in a bit. All right, hello again to everybody. Just give us another minute and a half or so, and then we'll get started. Thanks for all being on time tonight. Okay, well, there's over 30 people here already, so we can go ahead and get started, and then people will trickle in as we do our introductions here. But welcome everybody to tonight's Jumpstart Germantown JUMPinar. This is our bi-weekly or a couple times a month now JUMPinar series that takes place or that takes place so we can kind of dive into more detailed topics in real estate development and things that we don't necessarily have time for in our standard training program. And we've had several great guests and record all the sessions, so you can view all the recordings. I'll tell you a little bit. I'll tell you about how to do that at the end. But for tonight's topic, we're covering real estate licenses and how to, or how they, relate directly to developers as opposed to a real estate agent. With our session topic, getting a real estate license for developers. Joining us is Janice Benstock, who I'll introduce in just a second here. But before we get to that, I want to hand it over to Maeva real quick, who's going to let us know about the Jumpstart programs. And if this is your first time at a JUMPinar, maybe you'll learn a little bit about our loan programs that you didn't know. So Maeva, you want to explain that real quick?
Yes, hi everyone. So Jumpstart offers the Jumpstart Germantown and the Jumpstart Philly loan programs. They offer financing for, oh, I don't know if you can hear that, but they offer financing for the acquisition and renovation of residential properties in Germantown and other neighborhoods in Philadelphia. It's open to beginners and experienced developers. So if you are currently looking at properties that you think maybe in our lending area, feel free to go on our website and click on the map and see if you're in the lending area. If you are, we welcome you to send an application.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Maeva. And just the last little housekeeping thing, if you want to ask any questions to our guest tonight, you can do so using the Q&A tab. We'll have the chat closed, so you can just type your questions right into the Q&A tab, and we'll get to them, whenever we're wrapped up our discussion, probably around 7:45, give or take a few minutes. But yeah, let's go ahead and get started. Our guest has been patiently waiting, so thank you. I'll introduce her right now. And Janice Benstock is a real estate broker and an instructor that believes that we are all unstoppable. And her focus is on empowerment through real estate education. And she knows the fastest ways to create wealth. And she knows that the fastest way to create wealth is through real estate. So whether you are an investor, an agent, or a homeowner, or a developer, like many of those on this call, she has the information that you need to help you succeed in your real estate goals. She has a personal approach, humor, and vast experience in the industry, and that makes her one of the most sought out educators in the field. So we're happy and pleased to have her tonight. And Janice, why don't you say hi?
Thank you. Hello, everybody. I'm really excited to be here because I love this program so much from
Great.
afar, but I've been following it for eons and I'm just thrilled to be here.
Great, that's awesome. So why don't we start out? Maybe I gave a brief introduction, but I'd love for you to tell us a little bit about what you do and what role you play at the Real Estate Academy. With that, it's like a perfect background behind you. I don't think
Right,
anyone.
it's my background. And there's all, if you can see, there's balloons here because we had our first graduating class. And
Nice.
I'm not taking the balloons down until they drop and hit the floor because it was so, we had champagne at 11 o'clock in the morning. It was really fun.
Cool.
So yeah, so thank you for the introduction. I am in real estate. I got here kind of by accident back in 1996, and it's just been a love affair ever since. And I've worn many of the hats. I was a loan officer in the beginning because I didn't understand mortgages. I was a really horrible real estate agent in the beginning because I didn't know what I was doing. And I figured it out as I went along. I invested in properties. I used my background in finance, and I learned the hard way. And so when I started teaching about 5 years ago, I realized that I had an opportunity to speed up that whole learning curve that I went through in a painful way. It was really, really hard for me because there was no one out there teaching me how to do it. This is pre-internet, pre-social media, to age myself. But when I started teaching, I just found my groove. So, I have a brokerage and I deal with buyers and sellers a little bit, but mostly with agents. And then I opened up the school. So now it's just a complete synergy where it's all about education and empowering people, whether it's first-time home buyers, developers, investors, students, whatever it is, you can create wealth and freedom. And when I'm talking wealth, I just want to say this, there's my kind of wealth, what I consider wealth for me is financial freedom. Some people, it's Tiger on a gold leash and Versace. And no matter where you are in the wealth spectrum, wealth is wealth, whatever it means to you. And so when I say creating financial freedom and wealth, take that and spin it to whatever you desire, and you can make that happen.
Awesome. Yeah, that's great. And like as you know, Jumpstart is all about education as well, and kind of like the real estate industry is very, like I think Ken says in our training program, 80% of the knowledge is held and people keep it to themselves, and only 20% is kind of shared amongst people. To help uplift others rather than just yourself. So awesome that you're doing that, and I'm excited to get a little taste of that tonight, and then hopefully people can go your way, if they're looking for more in detailed training or think it would be beneficial.
Sure.
But yeah, you mentioned you're an agent and a broker. Have you done any development projects yourself, or have you ever dabbled in that side of things? Yeah.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So right now I'm just doing rent and holds. I don't buy anything to flip right now. I'm just too busy, old and tired. But back in the day, I was doing some flips back in, oh my God, I guess like the early 2000s, some stuff in Graduate Hospital, some stuff in Bella Vista. And I loved it. It was really fun, but I don't have a big contracting background. And so I'm better with the rent and hold. But the financing piece is what I find so interesting because that's really the key to everything. And so educating people on the financing piece is one of my superpowers that I love to do, because that's how you become like a regular developer or regular investor to superhuman, is when you learn how to get the money.
Right. Yeah, totally. And knowing how to like present the deal in a way that makes it look like it's going to make money, right? It's not just about knowing that it'll make money. It's about like, showing it to people, right? Um,
Absolutely.
yeah, that's awesome. So why don't we jump into the topic and very
Sure.
basic level. This is a super super high level question, but what is a real estate license, and what does that mean? For your Joe Schmo, someone who's not.
It's a really important question, because especially for a group of developers and investors, because where is the line between what you can do without a license and what you can do that you need a license? And most people don't understand it, and that's where you can get into trouble. So in order to have a real estate license, and you need one in Pennsylvania and all 50 states, as well as the Canadian provinces, and they're all really similar in their rules, regulations, and requirements. The purpose of a real estate license and why it's regulated, and it's regulated at the state level, is to protect the public from sloppy and unscrupulous practices. And I want you to remember that. So I want you to understand, and it helps you decipher between what am I allowed to do and what am I not allowed to do with a license. So the purpose is to protect the public. So we need a license when we're brokering a deal, when we're bringing two parties together and receiving a commission. So if you're doing your own deal and representing yourself and you're not earning money for brokering a deal, for bringing two parties together, you don't need a license. But if you want to earn a commission, or you want to introduce a buyer and a seller, or a landlord and a tenant together and get paid for it, that's what you need a license for.
Okay, gotcha. That makes sense. So it's like it's not necessarily something that like gives you any added benefits or anything. It's literally like giving you a license to perform an action, that has a lot of risk associated with it, right?
Yes, but the key is for compensation. Because you can, right, because I literally got on a plane 10 years ago to Portland to help my friend rent out her house and pack her stuff and move back east. And I listed it on Craigslist. I showed the people, I wrote up a lease, I did everything, and I didn't get paid for it, so I didn't break the law. But if I would have got paid for it, that's where you need a license. And so that's what people need to understand, is it doesn't prevent you from not doing your own deals. You don't have to have a license to do that.
Gotcha. Okay. And so, just I'm sure people are aware that like probably every real estate agent or broker has one, to like you said, do it legally and not be breaking the law. But, what other people typically do you see holding real estate licenses? Like, is it just those people in those industries, like for their job, or are there individuals, who choose to get it themselves?
Oh, no, that's why I'm really here. That's why I brought up this topic to Ken, is because lots of investors get their real estate license, and there are so many pros. There are a few cons, and I'll talk about them as well. But there are a lot of pros about getting your real estate license. And can I just jump into them, because that's really what I want to talk about.
So I just want to quickly cover. You said it's a state license, right? So when you're going to obtain this, you're obtaining it from the state, the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, right? Not from the city's, municipal. Okay, cool.
It's on the state level, and it entitles you to be compensated for real estate in the entire Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. And one of the benefits, and I'll get into it, is that it also legally entitles you to receive commissions in a referral fee basis from any of the 50 states, which is one of the best passive income things that you can do, because you could be in a Facebook group or have a cousin or a friend that lives across the country and wants to do a deal, and you could refer them to a local agent, and then you can receive a referral fee from that, and you don't even have to ever show a house.
Right, right. And then, but to be clear, you're not able to broker another deal outside of the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania that's not a referral, right?
Correct, but you can be paid by sending it to a licensed agent in that state.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah. So why don't you jump right in and start talking?
Because it's so exciting. It's really, really exciting. So there are a lot of benefits, but first I want to talk about what you need to do to get your license, because when I start talking about the benefits, 90% of you are going to be like, sign me up. And I'll sign you up, but I want you to know what it takes first before. So let's talk about the requirements. There's an education requirement of 75 hours of real estate education. It's broken into two classes, a 30-hour class and a 45-hour class. Each class is going to have an exit exam. And then when you finish both classes, you need to sit for your state exam with PSI. That's the company that gives out the exams. You have to pass the exam, and then you become eligible for licensure. You also have to be 18 years old. You have to have a high school diploma or equivalent, and they do a criminal background check. And in the past, they were very fuzzy about what they'll accept and what they won't accept, but they've since come up with more explicit guidelines on what kind of criminal background is acceptable and what is not. So if you have a criminal background, before you bother with going through the classes, you check the state's website and get a better idea if they'll accept you or not. Most crimes they're fine with, especially if time has passed. I've seen a lot. So that's what you need to get your license. And then once you pass the state exam, then you find a broker and you have to hang your license with a broker. Once you do that, you can go out and start doing deals. And here's what's so great about it. You can sell houses like most of my agents do. But if you have a full-time job and you're a developer and you just don't want to pick up another career, but you want to make money from your real estate license, you can do it by picking up commissions on your own deals. And this is really a cool thing. If you're doing a deal that's on the MLS, on the multiple listing service, first of all, you're going to have access to the MLS, which is one of the main reasons why people get their license, because there's so much data there. Now, obviously, we're not going to have access to the off-market deals, but anything that's on the MLS, we have access to, and we have tons of data, public records, all kinds of things and statistics that it's really hard to find elsewhere. It's all in one space. So you're going to have access to the MLS, and then you can search and look for your own deals on your own time. You don't have to wait for somebody else. And then when you find something and you put in an offer to buy it, if there's a commission being offered, which if it's on the MLS, there always is, you're going to get that commission. So there are several ways that you can take the commission when you're doing your own deal. So let's say you're buying a $200,000 house, and let's say they're offering a 3% commission, which there's no standard commission, but that's something common that I might see. So that means that there's going to be a $6,000 commission up for grabs. If you represent yourself because you have your license, you're now entitled to that $6,000 commission. You will have to split it with your broker, and that could range anywhere from you just paying a few $100s flat fee and keeping the whole thing yourself, all the way down to a 50-50 split or anywhere in between. So let's say you're getting a 50-50 split for easy math. So you're getting a $3,000 commission. You can either take that at the settlement table as a check, which is nice because you walk with money, but the downside to that is you're paying income tax on it. Or you can take it as a credit towards your closing costs, or you could take it as a reduction on the sales price. So either way, you're making an extra $3,000 to $6,000 that you would have left on the table if you didn't have your license. And that's really the number one reason why people get their license.
Yeah, so not only, are you saving on having to pay a realtor or your agent or whatever, you're taking what you would be paying them and it's going toward, like, it's like knocking out two birds with one stone. You're replacing the person you're paying and getting paid for it, right?
Absolutely. And there's also that piece of being able to find your own deals. Because because I know, when I work with clients, and again, I'm not working with too many buyers and sellers directly anymore. I'm very selective about them now because I have the school and the brokerage. But when I do work with them, as much as I have the fiduciary, which is that relationship, that responsibility where I have to put their needs above and beyond my own, which is what you'll learn in real estate school, even though I have that relationship, I'm busy. And so I can't necessarily drop everything I'm doing and search MLS for them 24/7. And I can set them up on auto matches and then they could be notified. But what if they change their investment strategy or decide they want to look in another area and I'm asleep or I'm out with a client? They have to wait. But when you have access to the MLS yourself, you can at 3 o'clock in the morning in your pajamas, go on and find a deal and schedule a showing online. And the next morning you could be out there putting in an offer. It's
Right.
that easy.
Right. Yeah. And I definitely want to talk a little bit more about MLS and sort of like, how that's different from, maybe a first time developer who's using like Zillow or Redfin to source deals and whatnot. So, well, I want to talk about that. Yeah. Yeah. We'll definitely talk about that.
It's hard about Zillow. I'm doing a thing about it next week about, All right. We'll talk about we can talk about MLS now. It's fine.
What I wanted to ask though was what you were saying about the training and classes that it takes before you're able to apply and get the license. You just, if you could explain a little bit, like what are you taught during those classes? Like what is the sort of like education that you're receiving there? Because there's a reason why someone has a license and someone doesn't. It's because they're more knowledgeable. Like what will you be more knowledgeable of, I guess, is the question.
Absolutely. So first of all, the education is mandated by the state. So we have a whole plethora of topics that we have to go over. Plus we have to make sure that you're prepared for the exam. But I have to tell you, it's not HGTV. You're not going to walk in and be like, oh, here's the kitchen, here's the bathroom. We start out the first day with defining real estate and what is real estate, what is land, what is real property, what is real estate, and talking about the legal bundle of rights. And we talk about different ways to hold title, and we talk about liens, and we talk about all the legal stuff and contracts. And it might sound like it's not sexy, but I'm telling you, it is cerebral. It is so incredible. And my students, I always tell them that on the first day of class, by the end of the first day, they know more than most people out in the real world. I call them civilians. Maybe not more than this group, because this group is steeped in real estate. But as far as just regular civilians walking around, they know more. And everybody is shocked on the first day because it's not what they expect. But even if someone doesn't want to get their license, and I'll talk about the reasons why that's a negative, getting your license, even if you don't want to get your license, the education piece is worth its weight in gold. It will give you such an advantage over everyone else just knowing the stuff that you learn in class.
And you said 75 hours total?
75 hours total. The first class is 30 hours. and the second class is 45. And you can take them separately. They're graded separately, and the attendance requirement is separate. The state requires 80% attendance rate for each class. So they're graded separately, attended separately, and you can take them, you should probably take them in order, take the first one first and the second one second, but you can take them out of order and you don't have to take them congruently. You could take consecutively. You could take one and then wait a few months and then take the second one.
Right. Okay. And then, if you had to estimate like how long, over the course of a year does it take for people to go through that training? Is it like a multi-year thing or do people knock it out in a couple of months?
So, in a couple of months. So I started switching to about 3 hours per class because sometimes people like to do longer classes and bang it out, but it's really hard to absorb all the information. So the longest that I find people have an attention span is about 3 hours, and that's pushing it. Mm-hmm. So 3 hours, we do 10 sessions for the first and 15 for the second. And my next session, for example, I'm doing Monday through Friday. So we're finished in 25 days. So it's like about a month and a half because we're not going on the weekends. So it's really quick. And then after that, you get your transcripts the day you leave, and then you can submit them to PSI, and that could take about a week or two until they put you as eligible to take the exam. But if you take the exam right away, you could be done in 2 weeks. So we're talking maybe on the really short side, 2 months from the first day of class until you have your license.
Okay. Great. Okay, so let's get back to the benefits we were talking about. And specifically, I'd like to touch on MLS because I feel like a tool that people get like within their first couple projects where they like either get their license or they get a new partner who has access to MLS. For people who might not know what MLS is, market listing service, like what is its function and why is it given to people with real estate license, I guess.
Absolutely. So MLS stands for multiple listing service. And back in the olden days, real estate was basically sold by one guy. It was always a guy who had an office, and he would represent listings. He would represent sellers and buyers. And he would just have to, if he had a listing, he would have to go find his own buyer. And then people started cooperating with each other because they realized that by sharing listings, they're now opening up the buyer pool and they're helping their sellers sell their property faster because they're exposing it to more people. And so the MLS was born, and it's had many iterations over the years. When I first started, it was a book that came out once a month. Now it's online, and then it moved to a dial-up where you had to go into the office and dial up. Now it's online. We have it on our phone. We all know the speed of information. Mm-hmm. And the beauty about the MLS is that everyone who inputs information and uses the MLS agrees to cooperate with each other. So in order to put a listing on the MLS, I have to offer a commission. And that way, if you come in and you find it and you bring me a buyer, you're going to get paid. And we have to disclose on the MLS what the commission is, how much is being offered. And there's tons of information on the MLS, including, here's another thing, documents. In Pennsylvania, it's a legal requirement to fill out a seller's disclosure for all properties, single family to 4 units. People that are off market sometimes don't know that they have to fill that document out. They don't know, and it's a law, whether you're represented by a real estate agent or not. So all of those documents, all the information that you need, including floor plans and just anything you can imagine is on MLS. They even, good agents, not all of them good agents when they list multifamilies, they even put the income and expenses, not only a document that's a download, but they also can fill out the fields in MLS. So the cap rates are calculated for you. There's like tons of stuff, and it's great for you to figure out the ARV. If you're looking to develop a project, you're looking to rehab something and you need comps for the ARV, they're all in MLS. Everything is right there. Yeah. I couldn't live without MLS.
Yeah, totally. And I guess the reason why it's such a like secure and reliable and like you said, collaborative, like hub, I guess, for people to do deals on, it's like that's why people need a license to access it, right? So that they're knowledgeable enough to follow those rules and kind of be in the know about it, rather than like the word shall not mention, Zillow, where anybody can go on and it's basically like Wikipedia, right? Where anybody can put it up. So
right, it is, and it's also, so Zillow syndicates our information, but they also add their own data, like there's estimates, and
Right.
they're not, and we all know when we look on there, they're wrong 90% of the time. They don't have good information. And the other thing is they don't have up-to-date information. Without getting too technical and nerdy, we have a stat, if we have a property on the MLS and it goes under contract, it sometimes still shows up on Zillow as active, which drives us crazy because then we have clients out there all the time saying, well, what about this one? What about that one? I didn't send it to you because it's under contract. So if you're an investor, a developer, and a consumer, and you're trying to find accurate information on Zillow, you're not going to, because half the time it's outdated.
Yeah, right. Cool. And this is another broad question, but I kind of want to touch on that idea of a developer's, place in having a real estate license. So we talked about first the knowledge that comes with it, right? They're just sort of like given this base level understanding of real estate terminology and how deals work and everything. Then they have access to MLS, right? How would you see a developer kind of putting these pieces together and using like their real estate license for the best for the benefit of their business? Like where does it play in? Should they be sourcing all their deals from there? Do they need to talk to anybody? A lawyer or a real estate agent or anybody, or could they really be their own like self-sufficient agent?
So there's a couple of pieces here from what I'm hearing. So the first piece is finding deals. So the only deals that you're going to find on MLS are the deals that are listed. Right. So there are still plenty of deals to be had off market. And so if you have good sources for off market deals, keep them. I would love to say everything's on MLS, but we all know that's not the truth. Mm-hmm. So you're going to keep your eye on what's on MLS as well as your off market deals, whatever sources you have. Mm-hmm. But one of the cool things about MLS is that we have access to public record if you just go on phila.gov, or I'm sure I do most of my business in Philadelphia, so I'm not really familiar with the other communities and counties. But in phila.gov, you can go on and you can look up parcels by address. In our access to public record, you can reverse engineer, you can do a name search, and you can find not only all the property that person owns, but that they used to own. Now our records are so robust that even if something's sold and settled, if they're in the chain of title, it's going to pull it up and you're going to have access to that. So it helps you find people who might own property that you're looking.
Yeah. So you kind of get access not only to new information, but new ways to search that information, right? And
so many ways. And one of my other fun things is we look for investors when we're looking, and you could use this however you want it as a developer, because if you look for a property that might be owned by an investor and you do a search that way, these properties might be more apt to sell them because they're an investment property. So you can just do a quick search in public record and see if the property address doesn't match the tax address, it's probably an investor, and you can export files. There's just so much that you can do with it. It's like I totally nerd out on the MLS. It's awesome. And now we have showing time integrated with the MLS. So you can literally pull up a listing and click on the showing icon and schedule a showing online. The other day I was walking home from getting my nails done, and I walked past an amazing property that had a for sale sign in my neighborhood. And so I pulled it up on showing time and it was vacant right on the app, and I got the code like that and I walked through it. I was in the house within 30 seconds.
Cool.
Yeah.
So let's keep moving through that. The property sourcing, it helps you find deals, and like you said, like you could just be walking down the street and get the deal up and schedule a showing immediately. How about, so I guess the next stage you would encounter MLS is like trying to find the ARV, right? So how, helping you estimate what you're going to be able to sell or rent the property for. Does MLS pull comps for you? Or are you able to?
Absolutely. You can search them yourself, or you can just click CMA and it'll pull up a CMA comparative market analysis, and it'll pull all the information up, and then you can handpick through them and exclude which ones you don't want to use. It pulls all the information for you.
And would you agree that like MLS comps are really like the highest standard of comparable sales price?
There's nothing more accurate, because they're the most accurate. Comps are that in public record.
Yeah.
In public record, it's not going to tell you if there was a seller concession, and MLS were required to put that in there if there was a concession, and that's obviously going to matter.
Right. So yeah, I guess like somebody could find the same comps, elsewhere off of MLS, but they're not going to know the details that you will.
Not going to know the details. And furthermore, there have been plenty of times where I've called the listing agent or I've called the buyer's agent and I've said to them, can you tell me, why did this sell high? Why did this sell low? Because we all know each other. And even if you're new, you're going to start to get to know the other agents, and your name is on the MLS. You're listed as an agent, so they're going to talk to you.
Cool. Cool. So then, moving on, you got the ARV and the rents, and then how about marketing or leasing your property or listing it on the MLS? I mean, that's another huge benefit, right? Is that you don't have to, trust a realtor to market your property. You can do that all from the same platform, right?
Yep, absolutely. You put it on there. Now remember that everything that you do goes through your brokerage, because as a sales agent, until you get your broker's license, and I can talk about that in a minute, the requirement for that. But when you go through school and you first get your license, you're a salesperson and you have to hang it with a broker. So even though you have access to put it on the MLS, the brokerage is going to tell you, some of them have permissions where you have to submit it to the office and they do it. Some, they let you do it from your own computer, and they're always going to take a cut, some small, some medium, some large, of the profit, even of the commission, even when you list your own property.
Gotcha. Okay, cool. Well, I see some questions are piling up here as we're going on. So I'm going to move on to my last couple questions, and then we'll get to those viewer submitted questions in a second. So thank you everybody for submitting those. Again, you can do it on your Zoom toolbar there if you want. But my next question is kind of the opposite of this. And what are some reasons to not get a license? I know when we talked before, you didn't only say that you wanted to convince people to get a license, but you wanted to like convince them to make the right decision, right? And look at it really quickly.
Absolutely.
So, and also, I want to make sure, I don't know if we already got there yet, but there is the worksheet that you wanted to go over, as well as the spreadsheet.
That's what I'm going to go over now, because that's one of the reasons to not get your license.
Right.
So there are two main reasons to not get your license besides having to sit through class. I think education is great, but if you're not into it, you're not into it. There are two main reasons. And the first one is this: once you have your real estate license, you are required by law to disclose that you are a licensee anytime you're acting as a principal. So anytime you're selling your own property or you're putting in an offer to buy a property, even if it's not on the MLS, you must disclose to the other party that you have a license. And the purpose is because when you have a license, the law considers you to have an unfair advantage because you know more. And you have to disclose that. And I don't necessarily think it's a bad thing, but some people do. Some people like to keep in the shadows. They like to keep their education and how much they know and lay low. So in that case, if that's something that doesn't work for you, the solution to that, sometimes, like I said, people take the classes, but they don't sit and they don't get their license. The second reason why it could be a downside is it costs money, not just for the classes, but it costs money to keep your license active. So there are fees, and the typical fees are paying for your license, and it has to be renewed every 2 years. You also have to take 14 hours of continuing education every 2 years. And if you're a realtor, because Realtor is a trade organization, National Association of Realtors, if you're a real estate agent, you're not a realtor unless you join NAR, National Association of Realtors. Those fees are about $600 a year. So all told, unless your office has crazy fees, all told is going to cost you, plus your MLS fees, about $1,000 to $1,200 per year in fees. And so I created a worksheet, and that's what I think we're going to drop in the chat.
Yeah, I think I said it earlier, but Maiva, if you want to just send it.
Okay, so what this worksheet is, it's actually really fun. I call it backwards planning, and I use it for all of my agents, but it works really well for investors and developers too. So what you do is you download the sheet and you add in how much you think your fees would be and how much your monthly expenses are if you're looking to make money from real estate, and it will calculate for you how much you need to sell per month in order to earn the income that you want to earn. And I used sample numbers in there because commissions are negotiable, but I used a typical commission of 3% and a split between your broker of 60-40, but you can go in and play with it and plug in and have fun with it, and it'll show you if it's worth it financially for you to do a deal or not, for you to get your license or not, because it's going to cost you about $1,200 a year.
Okay. Gotcha. So I can, do you want to explain how to use the sheet? I can like share it with my screen if you want, or you can
if you want to, sure, I could do that. If you want to share it, I can show it. Absolutely.
Cool. I'll share it, and then you can explain sections here, just so people have an idea what it looks like.
Yeah.
All right. Do you see that?
Yep. Okay. So what you're going to do is all this stuff that's gray at the top is we're really for agents who want to sell houses and make a living. And if it's something that you think you might want to do also, you can fill in those numbers. But if you're just looking at it to do your own deals, Derek, would you mind scrolling down to the bottom, please? So I did in blue. So what I did, the blue section is the investor section, the developer section. And that's where you're just going to put the fees that it would cost to get your license and to keep your license active. And I would put it so it comes out, if you don't know what the fees are, I would, these are monthly fees. I would just put in a total of about $1,200 a year. So put in about $100 per month. If you put in $100 and you'll literally see, if you just put in $100 right there under realtor dues.
Oh, so I'll need to make a copy. Hold on.
Oh, you have to make a copy. Got it.
No
We
worries.
went through this morning, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So like for my agents, and this can work for you too, if you're thinking of getting your license, let's say, you want to put all your bills in there, and then at the bottom, you can put in your other income, whatever your day job is or your other business, and that'll show that you need to make less for real estate. But what we want to do is we want to find out the net of how much you need to make in real estate. And then it'll show you. So if you go down to the bottom right there, it shows $100,000. And what that would mean is on a typical commission, if you're just paying for your license, you need to sell about $100,000 per month in order to, oh wait, no, 1,200, it should be 100. This is a monthly number. I thought that seemed a little high.
Okay.
Make that 1,200, 100.
Okay.
This is monthly. Yeah, I thought that seemed a little high. And then just hit enter so it'll recalculate.
Yep.
It should recalculate.
Hold on.
Oh, I don't know why. I don't know what's happening.
I'm not sure either.
We'll check before and make sure that it works. But if you put in your, I don't know why it's not recalculating. So anyway, it should be closer to about, you'll put that in and it'll calculate how much you need to make. And I'll play with it before. You know what? I wonder if you just make a new copy or clear it, if it'll work.
Yeah, sure.
There we go. Now just hit 100. I don't know why that's happening.
I'm not sure.
Okay. It shouldn't happen. There's nothing at the top? All right, I'm gonna play with it when we get off camera to make sure that it's working right. I don't know what the problem is, but it'll calculate how much you need to make. And $1,800, it should really be about, it's a lot less than that. If you needed to make $1,200 a month, you would need to sell about $100,000 a month in order to make that happen. But we're talking about $100 a month.
Okay. Yeah, no problem. So we'll figure out the formula.
Yeah, I don't know what happened.
And then we'll reset it up. But okay, moving on to my remaining questions here. We talked about how to not get it, and basically the answer is why you would not get it is if it just doesn't make sense financially, right, to maintain the license.
It doesn't make sense financially, or if you didn't want to disclose it.
Okay, great. And then my last question here is just a little like to give people, next steps is where they can, go directly to get their license. Obviously they can, receive the training and education through you, but the steps after that, do they, go on the city's or the state's website and apply for it? Or is there, a specific office you have to go to? What does the process look like?
Sure. So once you get out of school, then your school will give you transcripts and send you to PSI. PSI is the company that administers the exam. And then once you pass your exam at PSI, you're going to get a document from them that says you passed. And then you're going to go on the state's website. It's called PALS, P-A-L-S. It's through the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, through the State Real Estate Commission. And you're going to apply there. And then it's going to ask you your broker's license number, because you have to hang your license with a broker. And you're going to enter that number in there. So you need to choose a broker, which is also something that you have to do to get your license. And then your broker will approve it, and then you'll pay for it. And then now it's a couple of days. It happens pretty quickly. You have your license and you're ready to go.
Cool. And then do you ever have to take the exam again, or is after?
You never have to take the exam again. You have to only take continuing ed every 2 years. Okay. So it's 14 hours of CE every 2 years.
All right, cool. Well, that gets through all my questions, and that was a wealth of knowledge, and I feel like we definitely covered a lot. Questions came through, and I think if it's all right with you, can we move on to this?
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. The first question tonight comes from Norman Matlock, and he was wondering, what does a lawyer need to do to get a license?
So, yeah, if you're a lawyer, you just need to take the exam. You do not have to take the classes.
Okay, and the reasoning for that is, I guess you're
You
already
know more than I do already. So
well,
as an attorney, you don't have to take the classes. You just have to take the exam.
cool. Next question comes from Angela, and she was just wondering, what is the tuition for the academy, and will you accept Jumpstart graduates, and will they be given any support? Yeah.
Really great question. So the tuition is $555. It's $222 for the first course, $333 for the second course. I do offer a payment plan. And for Jumpstart, I'm offering a free textbook if anyone joins my class that's coming up April 1st. If you want to join, but you're not ready for April 1st, you can send me a message and we'll talk about it.
Great. And then I want to make sure we get your contact info before we go so people can let you know, say, hey, I'm great. Angela, thank you. Our next question comes from Keith, and he was wondering, is there a way to search for comps that are shells? So, AKA looking specifically for buildings with roofs, walls, windows, sidewalks that are safe and secure, no MEP systems, that sort of thing.
Absolutely. So here's the thing, it's garbage in, garbage out. So it's as much, the fields are there in MLS that we can enter so much information and be really specific. But unfortunately, some agents are lazy or they just don't add tons of information. So you can search by one of the best, the short answer is yes. The long answer, and I just want to go on this for 30 seconds, is that you can search, and one of the best ways to find them is we have a field for condition, and they changed it now. It's a lot more segmented. It used to just be like average, below average, or TLC. Now there's like 5 or 6 categories. So you can search by category, but also every single property MLS rules must have a photograph, at least one photograph. Most have many more than that. And so you can do a wide search, which is what I usually do because I know that agents, it's garbage in, garbage out. So I'll do a wider search and then I scroll through them manually to handpick, because if I do a narrow search, I'm going to miss a lot of stuff that agents didn't fill in the fields. And you'll learn MLS and you'll get really fluent at it and know how to use it.
Great. Thank you, Keith. Next question comes from Chris, and he was wondering, what is the best way to find a broker who won't require you to work as a full-time agent? So how's that?
Well, I went like this because I just started an investor program a few months ago that's going really well. But the best way, and I'll tell you about my program, but I'm not the only game in town. The best way to find a broker who doesn't do that is look around on social media at other agents or agents that you know from working on deals with you, and also look around. You can Google it, and I actually know of a few. I know of a few investors who have their license, and I could probably help direct you. There's no there's no database for them, but they're around and I know them. But I'll tell you about the program that I started just recently, and it was specifically for investors. So I have a program where my regular agents, after 90 days, pay a $75 a month tech fee to get their CRM, their customer relationship management, and all the other tech that we use. People that don't want to do deals for anyone else but themselves and refer deals don't pay that fee, but more importantly, they don't have to learn any of the paperwork or do any of that stuff. They go out, they still get access to the MLS. They can go find their own deals, they show their own property, and then when they want to write up an offer, they call, or that's old fashioned, text or email the office, and we take care of doing all the paperwork for you so that you don't have to do anything except for be an investor. And then if you know someone who wants to buy or sell a house, you can refer them to an agent in the office and you can get a referral fee. And if you know someone in another jurisdiction, another state, you can do the same thing, send out a referral. So that way you're getting passive income, which I know investors and developers love. So you can get all of that and not have to be bogged down with any of the paperwork.
Cool. All right, great. The next question here comes from Therese, and they're wondering, and I'm actually curious about this, please explain the difference between a wholesaler versus an agent, and if there is a license required. Do you know anything about that?
I know lots and lots about wholesalers, so I'm sure there might be some wholesalers here, so I'm going to say it anyway. Wholesaling is really illegal. Now, there's no law in the books, there's no statute right now yet that says wholesaling is illegal, but wholesaling is, for several reasons, illegal because, or it's committing illegal acts because it's receiving compensation for bringing two parties together without a real estate license. And they don't call it a commission, they call it a cleanup fee or consultant fee or whatever fee. But the reality is that's what you need a license for, is to bring buyer and seller together. And the second reason why it's a no-no is because it avoids the double transfer tax, which is what the city and the state are going to start cracking down on. Now, recently, within the last couple of years, Philadelphia instituted a licensing system for wholesalers, and they did that as part of the beginning of their process on cracking down on them. And ultimately, I don't know what's going to happen, but my guess is that wholesaling is going to come, it's going to look very, very different. So wholesaling is a different version of brokering deals. I'm not a fan of it. I don't do wholesale deals. I know it's a thing, but.
Okay, great.
Okay.
Like a real discussion, because that topics like that come up all the times, and it's important to get real opinion out there. So thank you. The next comes from Renee, and they were wondering, what is the difference between an agent and a realtor? And can you talk about the benefits of being a realtor versus an agent and such?
Absolutely. So everyone who comes out of school and gets their license is a real estate salesperson or a real estate agent. If you join NAR, which is National Association of Realtors, which is the largest trade organization in the country, we have about 1.6 million members right now, then you are called a realtor. That's a trade organization. So when you join NAR, you're also a member of Pennsylvania, the state level, and your local. My local is JUMPinar, Greater Philadelphia Association of Realtors.
Mhm.
And there are tons of benefits. Real quick, we have access to our forms. All our standard contracts are written by attorneys that work for PAR. And so we have legal backing and all the standard forms. We have a legal hotline that we can call Monday through Friday and get free legal questions answered. And we also have strength in numbers. So we have a really strong political action committee that helps fight for property owners' rights as well as real estate agents' rights. And we also have discounts on stuff. And the cool thing is the networking. We have conventions, and I go to the conventions, and we have lots of room for, we have committees and all kinds of activities. So it's a really, really great association to be a member of. And if you get your license, it's going to be up to your broker. So if you join an office that's a member of NAR, you will be as well. So if you don't want to be a member of NAR, you have to join an office that's not a member.
Okay, gotcha. And this next question relates to a brokerage as well. So when you are an agent, keep asking, what are some of the responsibilities and commitments you have to the brokerage, and can you estimate how many hours per week you will need to dedicate to it? So I'm sure it varies depending on the brokerage, but what would you say we should?
So it really it doesn't depend as much on the brokerage as it does on your status as either an employee or an independent contractor, and that's an IRS status. Most brokerages are going to hire you as an independent contractor, in which they're legally not allowed to require anything from you as far as hours or where to show up or when. They're allowed to require how you do your job, like what paperwork you fill out and kind of things. Now, they might tell you they don't want part-time agents. People say that. I don't think there is such a thing as part-time anymore, because we all have these, right? You can do deals and stuff from wherever you are, but there's no specific requirement. If a brokerage says to you that they want full-time, they're going to expect you to show up for trainings and be there and maybe do some cold calling and stuff. So you want to be with somebody who's part-time or investor friendly.
Gotcha. Cool. And a question you might have covered, but you can repeat it if not. Kia is wondering, are the classes you offer in person or are they virtual?
I'm in person.
All right.
I don't do Zoom anymore. I'm over it.
Yeah, I'm jealous.
I'm not over it right now. It's great now, but in learning, and I do through my website, just so you know, I offer online classes also. So if you want to get your license, but you can't make the time commitment to sit, you can do the online classes, and it works for some people. But if you really want to get the most out of it, sit in a classroom, talk to the other people, ask questions, learn. And the one thing I just have to say, and again, I'm a giant education nerd, but if you're getting your license and you're taking the classes just so you can get your license, and you're not really paying attention to what you're learning, you're really, really missing out, because the education that you can get in a classroom is worth 100 times what you're going to pay in tuition. I cannot strongly enough how important it is.
Great. And just two more questions here, and then we'll close it out for tonight. But Brian is wondering, I have passed the licensing test, but I have not pursued the license yet, mainly because he doesn't have a broker in mind. So what should he be considering when looking for a broker?
First of all, you have 1 year from the time you passed your test to get a broker. And it's totally up to you what you're looking for in a broker. I did live that I'm recording. If you message me, I'll send you a link to it on how to choose a broker. And I also wrote some blog posts on it, but really just schedule a 15-minute consult with me, and then we'll sit down and talk about it, and I'll help you figure it out, because it's going to depend on what you're looking for.
Great. All right.
If you download that sheet that I sent you before the Google Sheet, if you just click on the link, you're going to get something, and there's a link in there that allows you to schedule a consult with me. So if you're thinking about getting your license or where to hang it, your broker, whatever, you can just reach out and do a call.
Is your contact information on that as well, or should I type it in the chat?
No, I'll give it to you because that's just a scheduling link, but I'll give you everything.
Great, no problem. And yeah, I'm going to send out the one sheet to all the people afterwards. So we'll All right, last question for tonight comes from Lisa, and she was wondering, if you just want to get your license for investing and you go to a broker, doesn't the broker have a minimum of houses for myself to sell? So do you understand the question?
I understand the question. And that's why I'm saying, first of all, they're not allowed to if you're an independent contractor. They're not allowed. That's an IRS requirement, a regulation. And even despite that, some brokerages will say, I don't want to hire any part-time agents, even though technically they can't do that. Don't go there. Go somewhere who's going to be friendly and support you. And that's why I have my investor program. And you feel free to talk to me about that, about mine or about somewhere else that isn't going to require that stuff from you. Because here's what you have to remember about hiring a broker. And this could be a whole other JUMPinar, so I won't go into it too much. But you're making money for the broker, right? You're the cash cow for them, whether you do one deal a year or one deal a day. They're making money from you. You are in the position of power. So you need to be discerning when you go decide where to hang your license. And if someone tells you that you can't fit in there, go somewhere else, because there's always someone who's going to be a better fit and give you exactly what you need to support you.
Well, great, Janice. That was great advice and a great Q. And thank you for all the great questions from everybody in the audience. Tim just commented, said thank you very much for your time and knowledge. I appreciate it. So yeah, thank you very much. That was a great conversation. And this is like going to be my go-to. I'm going to send everybody this recording whenever they ask any questions about real estate licenses. And I appreciate, you taking the volunteering your time tonight to speak with us. And I'm sure everybody else did as well.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
Like I said, I'm going to send out, your contact information along with the PDF and the spreadsheet link, and we'll make sure you all know when that comes. But I just want to quickly let people know about what we have coming up. Our upcoming JUMPinars, the next one is on the 21st of this month with Jack McGovern. We're going to be talking about depreciation. This is a schedule we had, or a JUMPinar we had scheduled back in December, I think, that we had to postpone until now. So we're looking forward to that. And then early on next month, we're switching to Wednesday evenings, which is going to be really weird. We've been doing them Mondays for like 2 years now. So be sure we'll make more announcements of that. But if you have anybody who hasn't been able to attend on Monday nights, you can tell them to join us on Wednesday. Still going to have the recordings the same way and everything. It'll be the same format, but just note that change. And the first one that'll be on Wednesday is with Jesse Smith, and we're going to be talking about designs and plans required for rehab projects. So stay tuned for that discussion. And if you want to register for all these events, go to jumpstartgermantown.com/events. And lastly, this will probably be available as a podcast shortly. If you just search Jumpstart Philly Radio, I'll take the audio from our call tonight and produce it into an audio-only podcast, as well as the Zoom recording will be up at jumpstartgermantown.com/jumpinars. Or I think it's jumpstartgermantown.com/library now. I have to update my slides here. But yeah, you can view the recording as soon as I get it up tomorrow. And that's all I got. So thank you so much, everybody, and have a good night. Thanks again, Janice.
Thank you. Have a good night, everyone.